Lu Min turned 18 under a sky without stars. The mountain was unnaturally silent, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Even the wind seemed to avoid the Taoist compound, leaving the air thick and stagnant. From the forbidden cave beneath the mountain, waves of yin and yang energy surged and collided, creating an invisible pressure that weighed heavily on Lu Min's chest. This was the night Zhang Buqu had waited for, the night when a life would be harvested. Zhang Buqu did not bother hiding his intentions anymore. The kindly master, the patient teacher, the benevolent savior, those masks had lost their purpose. As Lu Min stood before him, Zhang Buq's gaze no longer held warmth or restraint. It was sharp, calculating, and filled with an urgency bordering on obsession. "Tonight," Zhang Buqu said calmly, "your nine-yang constitution will finally stabilize." Lu Min remained silent. "There is only one final step," Zhang Buqu continued, "to guide the yin slaughter energy into your body." His eyes shifted toward the inner chamber, toward Sun Wang. The meaning behind his words was unmistakable. Sun Wang, chained, sealed, and suppressed, possessed a rare yin slaughter physique, a perfect counterbalance to Lu Min's nine-yang constitution. Zhang Buqu intended to force a union of yin and yang, not for harmony but for control. By guiding the yin slaughter energy into Lu Min's body, he would ignite the ritual's final stage and prepare the vessel for possession. To Zhang Buqu, this was not intimacy. It was a tool, a mechanism, a final key. Lu Min felt a surge of cold fury rise from deep within his chest. For years his blood had been taken, his life had been shaped, confined, and carved into something meant to be stolen. Now even his final boundary was to be stripped away in the name of a ritual he never chose. Yet he did not resist. Instead, he lowered his head. "I understand," he said quietly. Zhang Buq's lips curved upward. That single expression, submission, was enough to convince him that everything was proceeding exactly as planned. He did not see the fire burning behind Lu Min's eyes. Inside the chamber, Sun Wang waited. The talismans still clung to her skin, though weakened. The chains still bound her, though they no longer felt absolute. When she looked at Lu Min, her gaze was calm but alert. "You've come," she said softly. Lu Min met her eyes. "Yes," he replied, "but not the way he expects." In that moment, no further words were needed. Zhang Buqu positioned himself outside the ritual chamber, overseeing the formations with meticulous attention. He monitored the flow of energy, adjusting sigils and chanting incantations under his breath. His mind was entirely focused on precision. That was his first mistake. He believed himself the conductor of the ritual. He never considered that the instruments might play out of tune. Within the chamber, Lu Min did exactly what Zhang Buqu demanded, but not how he intended. Rather than suppressing himself, Lu Min deliberately provoked the collision of yin and yang within his own body. He guided the incoming yin slaughter energy not into harmony, but into conflict. The result was violent, unstable, and completely outside Zhang Buq's calculations. Pain tore through Lu Min's meridians like lightning. His vision blurred. Blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. But he did not stop. Instead, he pushed harder. The formations began to tremble. Outside, Zhang Buqu frowned. "That's strange," he muttered. "The energy readings were wrong. The yin was too aggressive. The yang was reacting instead of yielding." The balance he had spent decades perfecting was slipping, subtly at first, then rapidly. "No," Zhang Buqu said sharply, his voice rising. That's not how it's supposed to flow. He rushed to adjust the sigils, but the changes came too fast. The ritual was no longer under his control. Inside the chamber, Lu Minh laughed softly through the pain. You wanted yin and yang to merge, he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. So I gave you exactly that. But what he gave was chaos. For the first time in decades, fear flickered across Zhang Buqu's face. The energy surging from the chamber was no longer obedient. It lashed out, distorting the formations and shaking the cave walls. The 4 female demons screamed as their roles as anchors became unstable. The yin venom serpent thrashed violently in its container, reacting unpredictably to the corrupted flow. Zhang Buqu's breath grew uneven. This is impossible, he snarled. You don't understand what you're doing. But Lu Minh understood perfectly. What Zhang Buqu failed to realize was that control depended on certainty, and certainty depended on emotional stability. As the ritual slipped further from his grasp, Zhang Buqu's mind began to fracture. Years of obsession, fear of death, and suppressed desperation surged to the surface. His movements grew erratic, his chants lost rhythm, his once perfect composure cracked. No, calm down, he muttered to himself, forcing his hands steady. This is just a deviation, I can still fix it. But doubt had already taken root. Lu Minh felt it. Through the chaotic energy, through the collapsing formations, he sensed the shift in Zhang Buqu's state of mind. The man who had controlled his life for 18 years was no longer a distant, untouchable figure. He was panicking, and panic was weakness. As the cave shook violently, Lu Minh braced himself against the pain and exhaustion. He knew this moment was fleeting. His body was reaching its limit, and his consciousness threatened to shatter. But the plan had worked. Zhang Buqu's perfect ritual was broken. His confidence, his greatest weapon, was gone. And on the night meant to be Lu Minh's execution, the roles had begun to reverse. The feast of death was no longer certain. Not yet. The night had already gone too far for hesitation. The ritual chamber lay in ruins. Formations cracked, talismans burned to ash, and yin and yang energy churned wildly in the air, like a storm trapped underground. Zhang Buqu stood amid the chaos, his breathing heavy, his composure fractured for the first time in decades. Lu Minh knew this moment would not last. Once Zhang Buqu regained control, once fear gave way to calculation, the difference in power would be fatal. If Lu Minh wanted to end this nightmare, he had only one path left, a gamble, not of strength, but of life. Lu Minh reached for the wine. The jar sat untouched near the altar, prepared long ago as part of the ceremonial offerings. Its fragrance was faint but sharp, carrying a bitter undertone hidden beneath fermented sweetness. To ordinary people, it was merely strong mountain wine. To Lu Minh, it was death. Hours earlier, he had secretly mixed a powder into the jar, an unstable compound, refined from yin venom, medicinal residue, and a trace of his own nine-yang blood. It was neither purely poison nor purely antidote. Its effect depended entirely on the body that consumed it. For Zhang Buqu, whose meridians were already decayed and forcibly sustained, it would be lethal. For Lu Minh, it would be survival or collapse. Without waiting for permission, Lu Minh lifted the jar and drank. The wine burned like fire sliding down his throat. The moment it entered his stomach, a violent reaction erupted within his body. His blood boiled, his meridians convulsed as yin and yang collided uncontrollably, each trying to devour the other. Lu Min nearly fell to his knees, but he did not show it. He straightened his back, wiped the wine from his lips, and looked directly at Zhang Buqu. "Well?" he asked hoarsely. "Aren't you going to drink?" Zhang Buqu froze. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Lu Min smiled, a thin, reckless smile that held no fear. "You taught me that rituals require offerings," he said. "I thought I'd make one myself." Zhang Buqu's gaze flicked to the jar, then back to Lu Min. He sensed something wrong immediately. The energy radiating from Lu Min's body was chaotic, unstable, far beyond what a normal ritual would produce. "You poisoned it," Zhang Buqu said slowly. "Yes," Lu Min replied, "for both of us." The air between them grew heavy. Zhang Buqu studied Lu Min carefully, searching for weakness, for hesitation, for any sign that this was a bluff. But what he saw instead was resolve, burning, absolute, and terrifyingly calm. "You think this will kill me?" Zhang Buqu sneered. "I have consumed poisons more potent than this." Lu Min met his eyes. "Then drink," he said, "and prove it." This was the heart of the gamble. Lu Min knew Zhang Buqu's greatest weakness was not his decayed body, but his pride. After decades of defying death, of stealing vitality and escaping judgment, Zhang Buqu believed himself untouchable, and Lu Min was daring him to test that belief. "If you don't drink," Lu Min continued softly, "then admit it. Admit that you're afraid to die." The words struck like a blade. Zhang Buqu's expression twisted. Fear flickered again, quick, instinctive, and immediately suppressed by rage. "You are nothing but a vessel," he snarled. "You exist because I allowed it." He seized the wine jar and drank. The moment the wine entered Zhang Buqu's body, something went wrong. His face paled instantly. The forced stability he had maintained for years shattered as the compound attacked his already fragile meridians. Yin venom surged uncontrollably, no longer restrained by the 9-yang blood he had relied on for balance. Zhang Buqu staggered backward. What is this?" he gasped. Lu Min exhaled slowly, relief and agony mixing in equal measure. "The debt," he said, "being repaid." Pain tore through Lu Min's body. As well, the poison did not spare him. His vision darkened, and blood poured freely from his mouth. His internal organs screamed under the strain, caught between purification and destruction. He collapsed to one knee, but he laughed. "This was always the ending," Lu Min said weakly. "One life for another." Zhang Buqu struggled to stabilize himself, desperately circulating energy, burning through stored vitality in a futile attempt to survive. His once controlled aura now flared wildly, exposing the rot beneath his cultivation. "You think dying together makes you righteous?" Zhang Buqu hissed. "I refuse." Lu Min looked at him calmly. "Then live," he said, "if you can." The poison reached its peak. Zhang Buqu screamed as his meridians ruptured one by one. Years of stolen vitality rebelled within him, turning corrosive. His body convulsed, collapsing under the weight of sins he had buried beneath ritual and arrogance. Lu Min felt himself slipping as well. His consciousness flickered, darkness creeping in at the edges of his vision. He no longer knew whether his body would hold or shatter completely. But for the first time in his life, the outcome was not decided by someone else. As the ritual chamber shook violently, Lu Min forced himself to remain upright, staring at Zhang Buqu as the man fell to the ground. 18 years, Lu Min whispered. "This is the price. One breath, another." Whether he lived or died no longer mattered. He had chosen, and that choice alone had already broken the chains that bound his fate. The final gamble had been made. Now heaven would decide who paid the cost. Silence returned to the mountain. Not the calm silence of peace, but the heavy stillness that followed catastrophe, when the world itself seemed unsure whether the outcome should be called victory or ruin. The ritual chamber lay shattered, its formations broken beyond repair. Yin and yang energy slowly dispersed into the stone walls, leaving behind only traces of chaos and blood. At the center of it all lay Zhang Buqu, alive, or perhaps something in between. His body no longer moved. The demonic aura that once clung to him had faded almost entirely, leaving behind a withered shell that barely resembled the man who had ruled the mountain for decades. His breath was shallow, uneven, so faint it could easily be mistaken for death. Lu Minh watched him from where he stood, leaning heavily against a cracked stone pillar. He did not approach, he did not celebrate, because he did not know whether Zhang Buqu's survival was a blessing or the beginning of something far worse. A cultivator who had defied death for so long did not simply disappear. If Zhang Buqu lived, then hatred would live with him. If he died, then the debts he left behind might still find their way back to Lu Minh. Lu Minh lowered his gaze to his own hands. They were trembling. The 9-yang constitution still burned within him, but no longer with the overwhelming purity it once had. The poison, the ritual backlash, and the deliberate self-destruction had taken their toll. His meridians were damaged, some permanently. The boundless vitality that once defined him now flowed in fractured currents, unstable and unpredictable. He could feel it clearly. The 9-yang physique remained, but it was incomplete, perhaps half, perhaps less. What had once been a heaven-defying blessing was now something fragile, powerful, yet no longer absolute. Enough to keep him alive, enough to protect him, for now, but no longer enough to make him untouchable. For the first time, Lu Minh was free from being a perfect vessel, and for the first time, he was truly vulnerable. Footsteps echoed softly behind him. Lu Minh turned. Sun Wang stood at the edge of the ruined chamber, her chains shattered, talismans reduced to ash. The cold, oppressive aura surrounding her had softened, no longer sharp enough to suffocate the air. Her white robes were stained with dust and blood, yet she stood upright, composed, free, or at least no longer bound. Her eyes met Lu Minh's. "You survived," she said. "So did you," Lu Minh replied. For a moment, neither spoke. Between them lay too much blood, too many choices, and too many unspoken debts. "What happens now?" Lu Minh asked quietly. Sun Wang, Xiaobai, did not answer immediately. "I was your enemy," she said at last. "I was also your tool, and you were both the same to me." Lu Minh nodded. "I know." Silence stretched again. "Walking together," Xiaobai continued, "would not erase what happened. The karmic threads between us are tangled, messy, unresolved." She looked toward the fallen Zhang Buqu. "And he is not the only one who will come looking for answers." Lu Minh understood. Whether Zhang Buqu lived or died, the events of this night had already disturbed the balance. The 9-yang constitution, even in its damaged state, would attract attention. Demons, cultivators, and hidden forces would eventually sense the change. The world would not leave him alone, not anymore. "If you stay," Lu Minh said, "we walk into danger together." Xiao Bai smiled faintly. "And if I leave?" "Then this was only the beginning," Lu Minh replied. She stepped closer, stopping beside him. "For now, Xiaobai said softly. Our paths align. Not a promise, not a vow, just a temporary truth. As dawn approached and the first pale light touched the shattered mountain, Lu Minh looked toward the horizon. He did not know what awaited him: vengeance, pursuit, redemption, or ruin. But one thing was certain: the seizure had ended. The story had not. And the karma born this night had only begun to move.